I know you heard it before, but I'll say it again. That June Nintendo Direct was insane. Not only did we get an update to a game that we all assumed that Nintendo forgot about, we also got an update on a new game from a series we just assumed was dead. And we even got a new Mario Party to boot that actually genuinely looks fun. But the game that left me the most excited coming out of this Direct is definitely The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. And although I'm still really excited for this game, there's something that happened recently that kind of makes me second guess if I actually know what this game is truly about. So just for a little bit of context for those who might not know, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is being touted as Zelda's first solo adventure in the same way that Peach got her own solo adventure with Princess Peach Showtime. At the beginning of the trailer, you can see Link fighting Ganondorf and eventually kind of just falling down into a dark pit, firing one arrow, saving Zelda and letting her escape. For the rest of the trailer, you just kind of see Zelda roaming around Hyrule with her new staff and sidekick. So solely based on what we saw and what we should technically only know, there's no reason for us to believe anything other than exactly that. It's Zelda's first solo game. However, this game is coming out just over 2 months from now really, on September 26th. And just like any other major release game, the ESRB is going to have to take a look to rate it. And typically when this happens, a little bit more information will come out naturally. And as you would imagine, of course, something did come out about this game that is very interesting. I do feel obligated to put a slight spoiler warning, even though that this is technically, public information, and this probably won't come to a shock to you either, but either way, little spoiler warning, so I'm going to move on in 3, 2, 1. If you look at the rating summary, it says this is an adventure game in which players assume the role as Zelda as she attempts to dispel rifts throughout Hyrule and rescue Link. From a 3/4 overhead perspective, players explore various environments while fighting stylized enemies, as example humans and creatures. And here comes the interesting part. As Link, players use a sword and arrows to defeat enemies. Zelda can use a magic wand to summon creatures, example wind-up knights, pig soldiers, slimes for battles. So turns out, even though that Link does disappear in the beginning, he still is going to be a playable character in this game. This implies many things, and I'll go a little bit more in depth about how I feel about this after this part. But for now, what this means objectively is that technically you can't say that this is Zelda's solo adventure because, Link is also playable. So Zelda isn't the main character, she's a main character. But before we move on, I just quickly want to say one small thing. If this is your first time here, hey, my name's Acadrien and I post weekly Nintendo videos, so if that sounds like your cup of tea, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider liking and subscribing, and with that out of the way, let's go right back into the video. So now it's time for me to share some of my thoughts, and I just want to put it out there, just so you know that no one mixes up my words. I am still very happy that this game is happening. However, I do have some negative critiques, but negativity does not equal to hate, so I just thought I would clear that up first. Let's start with something positive. So first off, right out of the gate, we still get to play as Zelda, which is still a first for Nintendo. Technically, this isn't the first time we get to play as Zelda on the Switch even, because in Cadence of Hyrule, playing as Zelda was an option, but this is the first time that Nintendo does it for themselves. And I think that this is a fantastic thing, and honestly, I think it's because of how, great the Switch has performed all through the generation. And because the Switch was so successful, Nintendo is now starting to ideate off of their core franchises. And ideation is great because it helps to keep these series fresh for longer, as long as you at least throw in a few traditional games in the mix to keep longtime fans happy. And once again, it's like I mentioned with Princess Peach Showtime. We already got a 3D Mario game in the form of Super Mario Odyssey, and we also got a 2D Mario game in the form of Mario Wonder. Since the core fanbase was covered, it kind of leaves the opportunity now for Nintendo to play around and try to see if they can find something new. Because obviously we want them to try something new because hopefully it'll be something good. But the reality is sometimes it's not, and that's okay too, but I'm just happy that they tried. But now it's time for a critique. You know what, I'm still very happy that Zelda gets to be a main character and that we actually get to play as her. However, I also kind of feel like it's kind of a cop-out. Just in a sense, let me explain. This isn't to belittle, 2D top-down Zelda games, but on average, the biggest mass appeal is the 3D games. So in a perfect world, it really would have been cool to see what Nintendo would have done if they would have given not only Zelda her own game, but her own 3D game. And you know what, it's not to say that it'll never happen, but let's just say, at least for now, Nintendo was not ready to go down that route. So to me, it slightly felt like a cop-out only giving her a 2D game. But to me, what truly slightly feels like, a cop-out is that now Zelda's not only the only playable character, Link is playable. And realistically, it's not even that bad because it'll add more gameplay variation within the game, which is amazing. But still, it's still kind of just lame that Zelda still doesn't truly have her very own solo adventure, like a truly solo adventure. And another critique I would have is the copy ability. Again, the copy ability is probably going to be very fun to play with, it looks very fun to play with at least, but why a copy ability? I haven't necessarily heard anyone talk about this, and I have a really hard time putting this into words, but I'm gonna try my best. A little while ago, I posted a video kind of talking about how I felt that Princess Peach Showtime was somewhat creatively underwhelming. One of my biggest points of that video is that I almost felt like they mitigated Peach's potential by only giving her the transform ability, which was basically a copy ability. Basically, I said it kind of feels like they were recreating a Kirby game, because in a Kirby game, you get to copy all these abilities. And on each stage, there's multiple abilities you can copy to help you progress through the stage, whereas in Princess Peach Showtime, you only kind of get one power-up and you're stuck with it throughout the whole level. Meaning, if you're not necessarily vibing with the power-up, it's kind of just like, too bad, suck it up until the level's over. And I just kind of find it a little bit weird that literally for the second time this year, Nintendo looked at their premier girl of a certain franchise and said, okay, your ability is going to be copy. And again, don't get me wrong, the copy ability is probably going to be super fun to play with, I just find it a little odd that it quite literally happened twice in a year. But I want to finish with one more positive aspect to this. As we know, Link gets sucked into that black rift. And as Zelda, on the overworld, we are supposed to go and close these rifts. But does that mean there's going to be a whole second Hyrule? Could this be kind of like a Tears of the Kingdom moment where Nintendo doesn't tell us at all that there's a whole secondary Hyrule underneath, and that's only for the players to discover upon purchasing the game? Because Nintendo did talk about how there was going to be an overworld in Tears of the Kingdom, but they never mentioned the underworld. And if that's the case, I'm totally down for that. But I want to hear from you. Do you think there's going to be an underworld in The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom? Let me know down in the comments. But until next time, Wareo.